Harewood House is one of Britain's most beautiful country houses. It's a classical palace in the middle of Yorkshire. Gardens by Capability Brown, one of the finest private art collections in the country, furniture by Chippendale, and splendid Robert Adams interiors. This is the Harewood 250,000 visitors see each year. But we're going behind the scenes to explore the Harewood which isn't in the guidebook. The dusty attics and cellars are full of long-lost treasures and secrets locked away in ancient boxes. What we find will take us on a journey halfway across the world in pursuit of the untold story about the house and the man who built it, Edwin Lascelles. Harewood House was built in 1759 and has remained in the Lascelles family ever since.
Welcome to Harewood.
Thank you very much.
Shall we go on?
So we lead the way.
Edwin Lascelles inherited the equivalent of £30 million from his ambitious and ruthless father Henry, who made his money from the sugar trade in the Caribbean. Sugar, known as white gold, made the Lascelles one of the richest families in England and paid for this palatial home. This much is known, but there's still much to discover. The present Lord and Lady Harewood and his son David hope we will shed new light on the history of the house.
Do you think there are still things left to uncover here?
Any large house which didn't throw everything away, there is a certain amount to be discovered. I've actually been clearing out a desk which was mine for many years, my father's before that, my grandfather's before that, and I found a great number of bills of my grandfather's. Why he didn't throw them away? Sort of £3 for 6 months from the chemist or whatever it was for, I think, sleeping pills and all that sort of thing. But there were other more interesting ones, including some stuff from Barbados to Edwin Lascelles of 1790.
Now, can I ask you about, does the family still have connections in Barbados? States? No.
Only friendly ones.
And a great many Harewoods and Lascelles in the telephone book.
Really?
Because when the plantations were active,
Yes.
the slaves in the 18th century took the names of the owners.
Well, they did when what is the word,
At that time.
emancipation.
Yes, at emancipation they did.
Yes.
Isn't
So
the right
that
word.
the
What is the right word?
Barbados telephone book has got pages and pages.
Lascelles, Harewood.
Lascelles, Harewood.
Fascinating.
I think it's a good moment you've chosen to come here. We're doing research into all sorts of areas that have been under-researched in the past, in the landscape in Barbados, continuing to find things in the attics and the basement of the house. So hopefully you can help us to speed up that process.
Our mysteries to uncover, indeed history is still to be told about the house and about the family.
Well, I hope so. We've had discussions with Professor Jim Walvin from York University about the Lascelles connection with the West Indies, and we know bits about that, but not that much.
It's time to begin solving the mysteries of this great house. I'm going to investigate the Barbados connection, while Carenza explores the grounds, and Anna investigates the interiors. Carenza starts by finding out about the background to the building of the house and the growing fortunes of the Lascelles family in the 18th century.
It presumably didn't spring from nowhere when it was first built. Do we know what was here before?
There was an earlier medieval manor house which was situated just down here.
Literally
Just down there on that flat bit at the bottom of this slope.
Now, have we any idea what that might have looked like? Very different to this house.
It's very different indeed. We have some idea. We have these fantastic 18th century pictures. The other view shows from the other direction. They've still got these formal gardens which derive from medieval examples, but you can see from the doorway, for example, that they've started classicising it. They're starting putting these Renaissance details on the building. So they clearly got new ideas about building. They want to improve their house to make it look more up to date.
So they're really using the house to show how well they're doing, to impress people.
By this time they're accumulating money from the Caribbean, from the slaves and the plantations. And it's not just a matter of upgrading. They've really gone up a whole division. It's like being promoted to the Premiership. Money starts coming in at a far greater rate, but they're also mixing with a different cultural elite. They've gone up another stage. So they're impressing an entirely new circle of people. And to upgrade a medieval manor house really isn't going to do. So they start building from new.
The new house was designed by architect John Carr in the fashionable Palladian style. It's a type of architecture which harks back to the elegance, power and majesty of the classical world. It was a style fit for the ruling elite, bringing with it echoes of imperial Rome in Yorkshire. The building of Harewood House is an important moment in British history, a time when riches from the New World financed a renaissance in our culture and taste. The Lascelles family turned to the greatest creative minds of the day to make their new home an artistic treasure house. The interiors were designed by the brilliant Robert Adams, a man who, in the late 18th century, pioneered a neoclassical style which became the hallmark of the most powerful and richest aristocratic families in the land. Adam employed the leading artists and craftsmen to create a look which was breathtakingly modern.
And houses like this were not just a self-indulgent luxury. I mean, they really fulfilled an important social function.
Yeah, they were institutions of enterprise in that age. They were one of the few places where men of capital and men of ideas and creativity came together.
Wonderful, intimate room, entirely dedicated to landscape painting.
Yep, and the painting behind you is by Turner. Edwin Lascelles had commissioned him as an architectural draftsman to come and make a series of paintings of the house. But while he was here, or while he was in the north, he made a grand tour of the whole of the north of England. And this opened up to him a completely new direction in his art.
So it was really a turning point.
Yeah, he might have set off from London as an architectural draftsman, but he returned as a poet of the landscape sublime.
So really what you're saying is that without Edwin Lascelles, Turner, we wouldn't really know who Turner was. He never would have become the famous painter that we know he is today.
Well, you might well say that Edwin Lascelles, in bringing all these young artists, young avant-garde artists here to Harewood, was the Charles Saatchi of the late 18th and early 19th centuries.
The pictures Turner painted of Harewood celebrated the work of the great landscape gardener Capability Brown. Brown swept away the old formal gardens and replaced them with a picturesque landscape, an escapist Arcadian idyll. Many of the 18th century follies have now disappeared, destroyed by later disapproving generations. But one lost building is particularly tantalising.
My favourite, my holy grail, is the Temple of Venus.
What was that?
It was a garden structure, an eye-catcher on the hillside, a built-in the neoclassical style. Every 18th century park had to have one. It was de rigueur at the time.
The fashion statement for your parkland.
Exactly, yes, showing off Edwin's wealth and his knowledge of current architectural styles. It's signed John Carr, 1780, the eminent York architect. And I can just show you underneath.
Oh goodness, I can see the inside. That is absolutely beautiful, isn't it? And all the detail of what the roof was going to be like.
Yes, beautiful ceiling.
I mean, it looks as if we know exactly what it was like. Do we have any other plans?
We have one further plan drawn up by John Carr at the same time, clearly as an alternative proposal to this very ornate building, a simpler structure. And as you see, it has two wings.
And do we know which one they actually went for in the end?
It's tantalising me, and has been for years now, why it was built, when it was built, how it was built, what it looked like.
So our real target is to try and find out where this building was and what it actually looked like.
Here we are. There's a light. Crikey, you're absolutely wonderful. Look at the...
Up in the attic, Jim Walville and I looked for clues which could tell us about the Lascelles in Barbados and their slaves.
What is all this stuff here? I mean, it's just absolutely, it's not junk, it's really, really, really good stuff, isn't it?
Boxes,
Look at this. Oh, you'll put a penny in there and the bird songs.
It is Aladdin's cave, isn't it, really?
Mention these boxes. Oh, this is one of them, presumably, is it?
That's one.
Not opened.
Not opened.
And there it is. And this looks like a early 19th century.
Early 19th century, isn't it? Yeah.
And what sort of thing would be in that? Just letters, documents?
It could be anything, couldn't it, really? It could be... it's a bit small for some of the larger documents, like the kind of plans and maps and illustrations you see elsewhere, but you may find letters in it, you may find deeds in it, and that may be true with the other boxes around the place.
This one, now this is of the this is a strong box, or maybe a fireproof box. And again, I suppose that's mid-19th century.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Items. A strange little fellow, isn't it?
Small one.
Yeah,
another one here.
Like a little jewellery box.
Again, it's very heavy.
What we will find in these, if we're lucky, is something which will really give us a new perception about the history of this family, the history about trade in the West Indies in the 18th and 19th century. We really are on the edge of a tremendous discovery, really, aren't we?
Well, we hope so.
Okay, now how do we open these things? Keys? There are keys here. Look, some keys. Shall we go?
Well, should we try it together? From the cabinet in the old gun room. It works.
Works?
No, it doesn't. It goes round, but it doesn't work.
So where is it? No. Okay, so what's your plan?
I suspect we're going to have to find someone who will be open for us.
Meanwhile, Anna is in the bowels of Harewood.
Hello, I found you immersed in all these boxes. What are you doing?
We're here in the servants' hall in the basement of the house, and as you can see it's absolutely full of boxes and objects, and what we are doing here, we've brought all of these things from all over the house, from all the various rooms, attics, bedrooms, cupboards, wherever things have been put over the years, and we are really sifting through the objects.
I see, so you've really got like a sort of 200 years of aristocratic jumble.
Exactly that. We're really bringing it to light and finding out more about it.
So what treasures have you found?
I've got a few things for you to have a look at, which really span the whole history of the house. And in fact, this first item, I think this predates the house. From my initial bits of research, I think this is a gentleman's small sword of about 1660 or 1680.
Oh my goodness. And of course at the moment you've got no idea who bought it, how it came to the house.
No idea who originally bought it, no idea why it's here, but hopefully I'll dig these things up as I do more research about it.
And what's this?
This was a bit of a fright when we first discovered it. We found about 6 of these piled up in a corner of one of the rooms. The penny suddenly dropped that they were bombs, so not wanting to take any chances, we got the bomb squad to come and have a look at them, the bomb disposal army unit. It's in fact a First World War incendiary bomb. We later discovered that it was dropped on the Harewood estate during the First World War from a Zeppelin which flew over.
And there's more?
We could go and look in the attics, all sorts of possibilities to look for in there. It's quite a long way up to the top.
As Anna heads for the attics in the East Wing, we could be getting closer to opening the boxes. Gary Eckersall and Chris Taylor from the Master Locksmiths Association have arrived to help us with some lock picking.
Well,
maybe it's not the right key actually, but...
when the secret was locked away, we weren't here. There's been an attempt.
Oh my goodness, outrageous, someone's gone at it. But a beast to open, I imagine.
It's very discerning of its true key. Its untrue key won't...
Discerning of its true key, I love it. So you have a little kind of tool, do you, to do this? I mean, stick something in there.
Each and every lock, if you're going to pick it effectively, you will make a pick for it.
Oh, that's what I thought. So that's time again, isn't it?
Exactly. Big time, big time. And it's not posh, this, bent wire.
It's not posh, it's only nothing fancy.
It's the tricks of your trade, I suppose. Sure about this. I can make those.
Actually, maybe something a bit bigger than that, mightn't it, Chris? Maybe, that might be. What length have you got? It can be quite boring watching this.
Well, that should leave you to it, I guess. Yeah. See you later. Bye. Put up the good work. Yeah.
Okay, we'll give you a shout.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a latch mechanism on the top there.
Carenza is still on the trail of the lost temple in the woods, and the question of which of the designs actually got built.
This is the picture store, and the first thing I want to show you a watercolour by John Varley, a prominent English watercolourist. This is 1803 and it's Harewood House from the northwest. But the interesting thing to look at is just here.
Oh yes, so that's the Temple of Venus.
That's the Temple of Venus.
But that's interesting though, because the artist here has shown the temple quite clearly without those wings on either side.
Which is another piece in the jigsaw. Well, if I could show you another painting over here. This is around 1825 and it's attributed to Harriet Lascelles, who is the daughter of the 3rd Earl. And here we have the Temple of Venus.
Which does have the wings on.
Wings.
I don't know, it's strange. Have we got any plans which will show us where it was on the ground?
Yes, we've got the Ordnance Survey, the first edition Ordnance Survey.
Right, so if we can have a look at that, maybe, I think quite useful to get up in the air, trying to get a feel for the whole landscape, try and locate the temple.
Sounds good.
Meanwhile, Anna's looking for more lost treasure in the attic.
This looks like it might be a Chippendale chair.
Well, I don't. If it really was, I think it would be on the stateroom's floor. But have a look at it.
I mean, this is a treasure we could have found.
Well, you never know. But I mean, the Chippendale here is extremely well documented. It has to be said. But nearly all of the Chippendale furniture has been recovered and altered in appearance through the years to suit
Yes, I mean, this
the fashions
painting
of the
is
day.
obviously is modern. I mean, at the price of Chippendale furniture today, in an auction house, it's like 200,000 for a Chippendale chair. I think it's probably worth.
It's certainly
we should investigate it.
Worth investigating.
Anna's touring the main rooms of the house and taking a closer look at the known examples of Chippendale's work to see how they compare with the chair in the attic. Chippendale was born just a few miles from Harewood and went on to become the greatest furniture designer Britain has ever known. He was also a shrewd businessman and published a world-renowned pattern book. His designs were fashionable, desirable and very expensive, including French Rococo and exotic chinoiserie. Harewood has one of the finest collections of his work anywhere in the world. Nowhere is it better seen than the state bedroom.
Every room you go into at Harewood, you're going to come across some of the finest furniture that Chippendale ever made. And it was his most lucrative commission. That was £10,000 was what was charged for
£10,000. I mean, that's
I meant to multiply by 75, so if you're good at maths, you can work it out.
So it's like £750,000, pounds.
Which is actually more than Capability Brown charged for the landscaping of the park.
Moving hills.
Well, yes, absolutely, moving hills, quite literally.
Interesting, of course, to see these chairs now, having looked at the one upstairs.
There are similarities, of course, quite strong similarities.
Well, it's the same shape, isn't it? It's the same basic
shape, yes.
And in fact, even the same basic, decorative themes.
This, you have to remember, has been absolutely cherished and has been on the stateroom floor. I suppose our other chair has not had such a cherished life.
And it's been painted, hasn't it? So that's why makes it difficult to look at the design. I mean, here the carving is so finely executed. You can almost see the chisel marks in the wood, whereas upstairs, I mean, the chair has obviously got successive layers of paint on it.
Which has completely obscured the carving, hasn't it? It doesn't mean to say it isn't beautifully carved underneath.
Exactly.
In the attic, the boxes are still thwarting the experts. It's frustrating because we could be so close to new information about the Lascelles slave interests in Barbados. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, Carenza is still searching for the lost Temple of Venus. The aerial view hadn't been much help, so archaeologist John McElwain from Bradford University is helping in the quest.
Well, actually, hang on. All the trees beyond over there are all evergreens, aren't they? Going right round, they're all evergreens, and yet in here, they're deciduous. So it might be in here. And it's actually turning off at a right angle here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's heading off in that direction. There seems to be a small bank underneath this vegetation.
Yeah, happens to it off this way. That's stone, isn't it? This must be part of it.
Yeah, that's a piece of sandstone.
Ooh, wow, it's curved. Look at that, I mean, that curving line. Well, we'll be able to work out the circumference of it from there.
Should do.
It must be part of it, mustn't it?
It certainly looks like it.
So we've actually found the temple.
we found a piece of the temple.
But I mean, it wouldn't have gone too far probably, and we have got the hint that there's a clearing here anyhow. We think we're in the right place from the map. It would seem very unlikely to be part of anything else.
I think there's a very strong probability that it's part of the temple and we're in the right sort of area.
Do you think there's any chance geophysics would work here? It's difficult with the trees.
Unfortunately, I think that's very unlikely. Normally you'll go for the least invasive method first, so aerial photography.
Well, I can tell you aerial photography's no good because I've been up there.
Well, unfortunately geophysics would have as many problems in here as well. We've got a lot of trees and we've got sandstone underneath which will be drawing water up through the profile. So actually trying to do geophysics in here would be remarkably difficult.
You think it'd be a waste of time?
I think it's unlikely to be successful.
Okay, so really the only way we stand a chance of actually seeing some of the temple building surviving in the ground is to clear the area and then put a trench in.
It's the only way forward.
Just trusting to luck.
So we get to work strimming the area we want to excavate. Back in the attic, the locksmiths are on the verge of a breakthrough, at last.
Well, how's it gone? What luck?
Quite good up to now. That one's done. That's ready. That's open.
Look at that.
Little drawers within.
Pull out the middle one. Oh, coin collection.
With no coins.
Coin collection with no coins.
There's two here just on the ready to open. We've got 6 positions open. There's just one more
So you
position.
can do it for us now?
Yes.
While we wait?
Yes.
High drama. There we go. That's very clever. Oh my goodness me. Okay, 1894. Okay. These are late 19th century. This is a schedule. It's deeds, it's letters.
Business letters, finance.
That's what's on the top. Perhaps indeed, if we go below, there's a whole earlier generation of documents. 1907. It's all. And these, look at these extraordinary things. This is a quite now utterly lost object. They don't make notes on paper. Make notes on bits of, presumably, is it ivory? And you can rub out the notes. This is a late Georgian notebook.
Regent's Park Key.
What do you make of this?
Ceremonial and practical, we'd say.
So Regent's, but this
to the gates.
Probably more than likely to the gates, I would imagine.
That's incredible. This is incredible. This is the key to the gates around Regent's Park. Because we had a house, one of the terraces. These are his private possessions.
And this one?
That's a slide.
That's a slide, a drawer.
A little notebook. Another key.
Another key.
Well, this is
Buckingham Palace Gardens.
It's fantastic.
Amazing.
We opened your brass one.
Yes, you wanted that opening, so we've done that.
That was a bit of a stinker.
There was, sadly,
because it was empty.
nothing in it.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely little safe.
It's more often than not we open them and there's nothing in them.
I've opened some deeds in bank vaults and that musty fusty old stuff, but nothing quite like this. With keys to Buckingham Palace Gardens, I mean, professionally that is just stunning. That's not going to happen again, is it?
No, this will never happen again. Because we were looking for early documents relating to Barbados in the 18th century. There are, of course, other boxes left, aren't there?
There are other boxes. Some are older than these also, so there's a good possibility you may find what you're looking for.
With a chance. The Chippendale chair mystery takes Anna to Edinburgh. The Thomas Chippendale School of Furniture should help us to find out once and for all if the chair's genuine. The school still follows the same techniques as Chippendale laid down in his famous pattern book. If anybody can recognise a Chippendale, it's the school's director, Anselm Fraser.
Well, what about the joints? I mean, can that tell us anything about whether it's a Chippendale chair or not?
Not unless I dismantle it. I can get a reverse clamp. What do you think? And just kind of spread it apart. Why not? I think
we don't want you to dismantle it. I mean, under here, you can actually, you can see gilding under the paint layer. So the decorative finish is not original. So that doesn't mean to say the chair isn't original.
What I would like to do is to tip it on its back.
Turn it upside down. They always want to turn furniture upside down.
And here we can see, anyways, possibly this is 18th century because it's rough.
Now, Chippendale never marked his furniture, did he?
He didn't, no. So that isn't going to help us. So how are we going to detect whether this is Chippendale or not?
The locksmiths have been struggling with the remaining boxes. When they finally open them, they don't contain any West Indian documents. Then we hit the jackpot after another box comes to light.
Here we've got a very good illustration of Lascelles as a merchant. The Caribbean was based on the sugar economy. This began in Barbados, then into Jamaica and throughout the islands. But the people who lived there, the whites that went to live there, and the Africans they imported in such vast numbers, needed every single thing that you can imagine. Everything from the shingles that they put on the roof, right down to the clothes that they wore, the seeds they put in the ground. Lascelles becomes a kind of merchant to the planters. So he, in return for their rum and their sugar, he sends them whatever commodities they need.
So this shows us what he was exporting.
Including, for example, the hoops for making barrels.
Oh, for the rum, presumably.
Rum. Further down we find some
lamp oil. Domestic.
A barrel of lamp oil. And so on. And here, for instance, the use of a white boy that they ship out, presumably as a kind of...
white boy?
And he would be trained up in the ways of a plantation in the hope that he would become a kind of white manager of the slaves.
Right. So they take this stuff out there, and then they bring back from Barbados.
They bring out the produce from the plantations. But that's the basis. That's the basic trade. Trade.
But the Lascelles weren't just traders. They also lent money to the sugar planters, and when they couldn't pay up, the Lascelles acquired their plantations and slaves. As a result, the Lascelles became one of the largest slave-owning families in the Caribbean, particularly in Barbados.
Now this is really the most exciting document of many that we've got here. This is an account of one of the properties, Lascelles properties in Barbados. That's where the slaves live. And we have two windmills, because windmills were the common form of grinding the sugar in Barbados.
Yes.
Barbados sticks out into the Atlantic. They catch the wind. There's a plantation windmill here, and there's one here, but there's also a gully, an old river gully, running, an old water gully running down here to the north of this particular windmill.
My God, so with this information we could actually go and find the remains, find the site and find the remains.
Go to Barbados and find this spot.
Right, you talked me into agreeing to go to Barbados.
Let's both go.
Sugar was first introduced into Barbados by the English in 1642. In just 20 years, it became the dominant crop, replacing tobacco. The island's easterly location and temperate climate was ideal for growing sugar, a crop which needed a huge labour force. Originally, the workers were mainly Irish convicts, but as the demand for cheap labour grew, slave traders began abducting West Africans, transporting them to the Caribbean and selling them to plantation owners. It was an abominable trade. Over 600 slaves were chained together below deck on each ship on an horrific 3-month voyage across the Atlantic. 1 in 5 died en route. Of the 10 million black Africans sold into slavery, a quarter were on British ships. It was part of a triangular trade route across the Atlantic. Guns and supplies were taken to Africa, where they were traded for slaves. The slaves were then taken to the Caribbean and sold, and the ships then returned to Britain loaded with sugar and rum. It was this trade in sugar and slaves which made the Lascelles' fortune. We're trying to trace the exact location of the plantation on the sketch we found. The plantations were laid out so that the planter's house overlooked the cane fields. The houses were elegant and comfortable, almost like English country villas, subtly adapted to withstand the intense Caribbean heat and the threat of hurricanes. They were full of echoes of home, with fine silver and china imported from Britain, alongside furniture made of local mahogany. The slaves' houses were in sharp contrast. Whole families were crammed into small and basic huts made from stone, rubble and thatch.
It's beastly stuff, isn't it, this sugar cane? It's razor sharp. Oh, well, grief. Terrible stuff. Now, Jim, here's the sort of task, really, difficult one, but the challenge is, can we find these features?
Well, here we are. I mean, it's a long way from Yorkshire, isn't it? But we're in the middle of one of the Harewood's old properties at Fortescue. One of the properties that they acquired mid-18th century from people called Freer as a debt. Classic Harewood plantation acquisition. That's what they did. And what we have on the map are a series of sort of leads, really, to find out if this is what we're looking
Well, look, sugarcane. It says so. Cane fields, Jim. There's one. There's another one.
The cane fields all over the island.
Okay, well, windmills.
Where are the windmills? Show
Over
me the
there.
windmills.
Well, we can't see them now, but this thing here, of course, the watercourse gully. I mean, this, in a sense, maybe could have been a gully, this road. Couldn't it? Certainly waterlogged.
Waterlogged, not water gully. Right.
Well, I know, Jim, but
this, I don't think this is the collection of cane fields that we're looking for. Let's go elsewhere.
Well, in fact, we might see some sign of these mills around here, Jim.
We might.
It's possible, isn't it?
Look hard enough.
As we continue our painful search, Carenza is having more success. The archaeologists are on the verge of discovering the substantial remains of the Temple of Venus.
So do you think the Temple of Venus here was just a landmark, or was it actually being used for something? What are the finds telling us?
No, it's very much in use. We've got a wide variety of finds. I think it'd be best if we had a look at them.
Wow, this is fantastic. You've got masses of stuff.
We've got a lot of the sort of domestic wares, the sort of black wares that are typical to Yorkshire of the period, sometimes called treacle wares. We've got bits of what are actually Oriental porcelain, this piece there.
And that would have been very expensive in those days.
That would have been very expensive then, because we don't really start making porcelain in Britain until 1748. And even then, it's still quite a prestige ware.
And they're obviously smoking, because there's masses of these bits of clay pipe, aren't there? Sort of cigarette butts of their generation, really.
You can also see that they've got a sharpening stone for a knife too.
Sharpening the picnic knives.
Sharpening the picnic knives.
It seems to give a real feeling of the rich at play here.
I think that's very much the case.
Not only are these revealing artefacts, but we've also solved the puzzle of which design of the temple was built.
We've got quite a substantial wall base going all the way around here, and what you can actually see in the far corner is that we've got the remains of what appears to be a fireplace.
That's fantastic. We had no idea there was going to be a fireplace in this, did we?
No.
That looks like a bit of the stone that we found when we were just wrecking the site.
Yeah, that does indeed.
In terms of the plan, this looks like one of those wings that we were wondering whether they actually existed or not.
Yeah, this definitely looks like one of the wings.
This is amazing.
So the temple did have wings. It was eventually pulled down in the 19th century as prudish Victorian morals shunned the hedonism and liberal sexual mores of the 18th century. In Barbados, Jim and I are getting close to finding the site of the plantation which helped pay for the temple and Harewood House itself.
This is east over here, according to my compass.
Right.
According to this map, the Great Gully runs east-west, east-west. So this, in theory,
looks like it,
is the gully, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so we have the gully, east-west orientation.
We have the windmill.
That windmill's in the right place. The gully's in the right place. There should be another windmill over there.
Somewhere down there, yeah.
So, Jim, I think we found it.
I
It's
think
actually
we
rather
have the right
brilliant,
one.
isn't it? Surprisingly, I'm impressed.
The Lascelles plantation,
Fantastic.
all around us.
As we try to build up a picture of life for the Lascelles and for the slaves 200 years ago, there's news from Edinburgh. The chair is definitely not a Chippendale. It's a Victorian reproduction made with old wood. So it's returned unceremoniously to the attic. In the nearby room, the last of the boxes has been opened.
It's amazing, it's jewels.
Wonderful.
I mean, you know, talk about discovering treasure.
We had no idea at all that such things were still here and still waiting to be discovered.
And there was I worried about a Chippendale chair, but in actual fact, look at this, I've got diamonds, beautiful enamel, and lots of diamonds. Have a look at that. You must have some idea who this might belong to.
Yes, well, we think they belong to Charlotte Lady Canning, who is a relative of the Harewoods from the 1840s and 50s. And her husband, Charles Canning, was the Governor-General in India in the 1850s.
A little book here, a diary, 1861.
Well, that's interesting because that was the year of the death of Lady Canning. So this may well be her objects that were shipped back from India after her death. And Charles Canning ties in with this box we had open as well. And if you open it inside,
it's a travelling toilet
case. Oh, that's beautiful.
Silver and ivory. So.
Which obviously, you know, she had with her and used throughout her life, really.
You've not seen the best yet. My own personal favourite. It's in this box here. Just move that one.
Oh.
Finest cigars.
In perfect condition. What is the date of these, do you think?
I think they're turn of the century and they still smell lovely, don't they?
They do.
It just goes to show you don't know what you're going to find in your attic, do you?
You certainly don't.
Back in Barbados, I've come to the museum to see a rare book about managing slaves. It's a shocking blueprint on how to run a successful plantation.
It's printed in 1786.
86, right.
Yeah. And here you see the list of the names of the planters.
And Edwin Lascelles, because Edwin is a chap who built Harewood House in Yorkshire. It's quite chilling. It's It says, interesting here, make it a law that the under-overseer shall upon no occasion give more than 3 stripes of the whip to any Negro. So I mean, it's incredible. They're actually governing the way that kind of punishment is inflicted. So not more than 3.
Not more than 3. Unfortunately, that didn't work
decent
out.
of them.
Yeah.
I mean, but even 3, you know. This whole slightly cynical aspect of this book is revealed by this passage here. If Negroes are fed plentifully, worked moderately, and treated kindly, they will increase in most places. Of course, increase means not just create more product, more sugar, but presumably will breed, which means one gets a free workforce. This is how to create generations.
And what you must bear in mind, that during slavery, the child got its status from the mother.
Right.
So if the mother was a slave, the child automatically became a slave, even if the father was white.
The sexual exploitation that went with slavery, I mean, it's a bit of a myth, perhaps. I mean, can you tell me about that? And was it common?
It was common. It was quite real, especially made evident by the amount of mulatto children which were born from these unions.
And as you said before,
some consensual, some not. Let's not fool ourselves. Mostly not.
It says here, women who have children at the breast should not be required to appear in the field, very generous, till 7 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
well,
that's
maybe
a concession.
for them this is a concession, seeing that one had to be in the field at the crack of dawn.
This guide obviously didn't succeed in its aims of creating a docile, productive workforce.
There's always been resistance. The slave revolt is the more muscular form of that resistance.
But otherwise, I mean, there was passive resistance, not working very hard.
Not working very hard, working slowly, destruction of tools, destruction of cattle.
Right.
Infanticide in some cases.
Really?
Some thought it better that their children not be born into this abject state of enslavement.
Good God. The most significant slave uprising engulfed thickets, or the Lascelles plantations, in 1816. It signalled the beginning of the end of slavery in Caribbean sugar production. Hundreds of slaves set alight the sugarcane fields and fought the militia. But the rebellion was violently put down, the leaders executed, and their homes destroyed. The authorities set about preventing a repeat of the uprising, and the planters clamped down even more harshly on the slaves. A series of towers, like the one at Gun Hill, were built as part of an early warning system in the event of other outbreaks of violence. Jim, we've been talking about the 1816 slave uprising, particularly over at Thicket's plantation. And this building, this signal station, was built, wasn't it, as in the aftermath of that, a system of really holding down the island.
Yes, I mean, this was put up in 1818, 2 years after, and it really represents the need of the military and planter authorities to keep a grip and maintain a grip over the slaves. It has 2 functions, really. It's a military installation. And throughout the 18th and into the 19th century, Europeans are worried about 2 things, that each other, threats from other Europeans onto the islands, but more especially the slaves. You need to keep them overawed, and as in 1816, you couldn't always do it.
So this is all about communications. If something's happening at one end of the island, the government would want to know and would rally their militia. And I guess it works simply by chaps being stationed here in this room with telescopes and simply looking, through these windows, spectacular view right across the coast there. If there was a problem, a plantation burning, someone under attack, or indeed a flag flying from another of these signal stations, they'd really know what was going on and pass the message on to get the militia in action, which means, I suppose, seeing the flag through your telescope, right,
coded flag, red flag, black flag, red flag, goodness knows what. You know, saying insurrection imminent, rush to the flag locker over here, pull out one's own coded flag, attach it to the rope, and run it up the flag mast. And then the next station knows, indeed, the whole island would know that there's, trouble is happening.
And the message would get straight down to military headquarters in Bridgetown.
Yeah, so
the military army would be
right. So controlled through this communication system, that's what it's all about.
And that's the key really to the history of slavery, control of the planters over the Africans and control of the military over everyone when things get out of hand.
Slavery was finally abolished in the British Empire in 1833 after years of campaigning by the anti-slavery movement.
Oh, hello, is that Mr. Harold Harwood? Yes, my name
I still want to find out more about the lives of the workers in the sugar factories and cane fields. Lady Harwood had mentioned that many slaves took the name of their owners after emancipation.
Oh, really? Your grandmother?
Could any of them be descendants of a plantation worker and be able to shed light on their lives? I traced a Jeremy Harwood, whose grandmother had worked on a Lascelles plantation.
Jay, what can you tell me about the Lascelles estate, which was just across the road, wasn't it?
Most of the people from the district here would work at Lascelles, my grandmother, and she would also mention other individuals from some of the other neighboring villages that I wasn't too familiar about.
So what did she do?
She used to work on the plantation as an ordinary laborer. They would leave home for work like 6:30 in the morning, 7 o'clock, and the days were pretty. She said the days were pretty hard sometimes.
Yeah, simply the whole process, I suppose, of sugar cutting, sugar refining was just simply hard work.
I think one of the hardest problems they used to encounter, as I mentioned, I say, like when the canes were like halfway before they were ready, the canes are actually your height, and then you had to go between the fields. The blades of the canes were, they're a little sharp. They would scratch you across the face and the skin. So they used to wear some old clothing, long sleeve shirts and that kind of stuff to protect their skins from being scarred by the sugar blades.
Joey, how do you feel about it now? I mean, how do you come to terms with this past?
Well, I believe time has passed, for the anger has gone, and people are more aware of things that you need to do now to put that behind you, because you see from generation to generation keeps moving on. So you cannot look at that generation that is back there now and deal with the generation that is here now. You have to move in a more positive area in order to move on in this world.
But slavery remains a highly topical and sensitive issue. We can't escape the fact that some of the finest houses built in Britain during the 18th century were partly paid for by the profits of slavery. It's something the Lascelles family has had to confront as it finds out more about the history of Harewood House. David, do you feel in any way sort of the responsibility for this?
No, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I abhor the slave trade as any sane person must. But, I mean, it's fascinating, the detail is fascinating, and it's fascinating to know what really happened, rather than to speculate about it, which has happened a lot. But there's probably no such thing as clean money. All money is dirty money, somewhere down the line. Where did the Tate family make their money? I mean, does that invalidate the Tate galleries?
I mean, any building like this is a monument to inequality, isn't it? If somebody in society has got the money to build something like this, then there are bound to be lots of other people who are being exploited or having to work to build it. And it's not just this house. The medieval manor house would have had peasants who were almost in a condition of slavery working to support that. When we were doing the dig up at the Temple of Venus, you find all the broken pottery, and think of the people who've had to carry all those pots up there so that the few wealthy people can have a picnic and enjoy their day. They've got to do the cooking, they've got to give everything back. And it's funny when you get under the ground and you see the sort of everyday minutiae, and archaeology is very good for showing you everyday people's lives rather than the sort of great and the good. And there's that such a strong contrast that this landscape that we see that's been so beautiful, and it is beautiful, but it's covering up something else.
And don't you feel, in a way, the money, tainted as it was, that used in such a way to form a pivotal part of a local economy, like you said, employing lots of people to build it, to decorate it, to maintain it, to work within it, and the thing of beauty in itself, in a way, in some magical, almost sort of alchemical way, pure, cleans the money?
No.
It's never can be justified.
Oh, I don't think it's justified, but I think it happened. I mean, it's morally completely reprehensible, but it doesn't stop you enjoying, it doesn't stop you trying to understand what was going on, trying to understand all the people that were working here and that went into making this building function and this estate function, and to enjoy the beauty of it.
I think the point is that there is no way that one could ever justify slavery by what good or bad may have come out of it. And certainly what we're trying to do at Harewood today, running it as an educational charitable trust, open to the public, accessible to the widest range of people possible, for them to see Harewood's whole history. I mean, the beauty of it, but to know everything that has happened. And I think that's important. I think knowledge, proper knowledge, full knowledge, is what you guys are trying to reveal in your different specialist areas. I applaud that. I think that's great.
So you can't change the past, but you hope to shape the future.
Exactly.
Collectors of curiosities from days gone by discover the fascinating history and the potential value of their family heirlooms next. Stay with us here on Yesterday for the Antiques Roadshow.